Imagine finding a cheap childhood toy hidden in your mum's closet after she passes away. It's wrapped in duct tape with a note in her handwriting that says, "Do not play the last file." Would you listen to it? Because the guy in this next story did, and what he heard recorded on it was a timestamp from tomorrow, featuring his own death. Listen to this. Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're ready because today we have some seriously messed up stories. Grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's jump right into the nightmare. My mum hid my childhood voice recorder until she passed away, and I finally know why. When I was 8, my dad bought me one of those cheap little voice recorders from Radio Shack. I used it for literally everything. I recorded myself singing commercial jingles. I recorded my mum telling me to stop recording her. I recorded my dad snoring on the couch and played it back at full volume until he chased me upstairs. But after my parents divorced, I used it differently. I started recording my room at night, not because I believed in ghosts, not at first anyway. I did it because I kept waking up with the feeling that someone had just been talking to me. Not a dream voice, not my mum calling from the hallway, a whisper right beside my ear. Every morning I would check the recorder. Most nights it was nothing. Blank hiss, blank hiss, blank hiss. Then, on October 14th, 2007, I caught it. At first, it was just the sound of me breathing. The little plastic recorder made everything tinny and far away, like I was listening from the bottom of a well. Then my mattress creaked. I heard myself shift in bed. And then, a voice said, "Not yet." It was soft, female, close to the microphone. I screamed so loudly my mum thought I had hurt myself. She listened to the recording twice. The first time, her face went completely pale. The second time, she said it was probably a radio signal or one of my toys. The next day, the recorder disappeared. I assumed she threw it away, but man, I was so wrong. My mum died 3 months ago. I've been cleaning out her house slowly because grief is weird. Some days I can throw away whole boxes. Some days I find a grocery list in her handwriting and lose an hour just sitting on the floor. Last night I found the recorder in a shoebox at the back of her closet. It was wrapped in 3 dish towels and duct tape. There was a sticky note on top. In my mum's handwriting it said, "Do not play last file," which obviously meant I played every file except the last one. Most were exactly what I remembered. Me singing, me laughing, my parents. Then I found the night recordings. Blank hiss, and then the October 14th file. My breathing. The mattress creak. That soft voice. Not yet. I sat in my mum's empty bedroom with the recorder in my hand and felt 8 years old again. But there were more files after that. Files I didn't remember making. The next one was dated October 15th. 3 minutes of silence, and then my sleeping voice whispered, "When?" A pause, then the woman answered, "When she stops watching." The next file was October 16th. My voice again, thick with sleep. "Who are you?" The woman said, "The one under your bed." October 17th, me. "Are you going to hurt me?" Her. "No." Me. "Are you going to hurt Mum?" Her. "I already did." That was when I stopped. My mother had a miscarriage before me. I only found out as a teenager, during one of those family arguments where adults reveal things they shouldn't. A little girl, according to my aunt, stillborn. My mother never, ever spoke about it. I looked at the recorder. There was one file left, the last file, the one my mother begged me not to play. I didn't resist. The file had no date, just a default name, REC_001. At first, I thought it was broken. No hiss, no static, just perfect silence. Then, I heard my mother crying. Not the way she cried near the end, when the cancer had hollowed her out. This was younger crying, raw, panicked, breathless. Then her voice. "Please," she whispered, "take me instead." A little girl giggled. My stomach turned cold. The girl said, "You'll forget." My mother sobbed, "No, no, I won't. You will." There was a long silence. Then the little girl said, "But he'll remember." The recording ended. I sat there for a while, staring at the tiny grey machine in my palm. Then I saw it. A new file had appeared. REC_002. I hadn't pressed record. I hadn't touched anything. The timestamp was tomorrow's date. I don't mean the recorder glitched. I don't mean the file name was wrong. The date was May 17th, 2026. Tomorrow. My hands were shaking so badly, it took me 3 tries to press play. Silence first, then I heard myself. Not childhood me now, older, breathless, crying. "I'm sorry," my recorded voice whispered. I shouldn't have played it, and in the background, something dragged across the floor. Slow, heavy. The sound of it made my teeth hurt. Then my voice again. "Mum, please tell me what to..." It cut off. A pause. Then the woman's voice, the same one, the exact same one from when I was 8, said, "She's not watching anymore." The recording ended. I'm writing this from my kitchen table. Every light in the house is on. The recorder is in front of me and I keep looking at it even when I'm trying to look at the screen. A few minutes ago, another file appeared. REC_003. Tomorrow's date again. I haven't played it. I'm not going to. I keep thinking about what my mum did, what she must have understood that night when she snuck into my room and took the recorder, how long she watched, how long she stayed awake to stay between me and whatever it was that was talking to me in the dark. Years maybe, the whole rest of her life, and I undid it in an hour because I couldn't leave well enough alone. I'm sorry, Mum. I'm so sorry. I can hear something beneath the kitchen floor. Imagine being trapped in a miserable, failing marriage, and then suddenly, overnight, your wife becomes perfect. She's happier, she's cooking your favorite meals, she even looks 20 years younger. But then she invites her new friend over for dinner at midnight, and you realize the cost of that perfection is literally your own life. Get ready for this one. Man, that voice recorder story actually gave me chills, but we are moving right along to the next one. This story is honestly terrifying because it starts off so innocent until it just completely derails into pure madness. I find it hard to put into words when and how this nightmare started. I moved with my wife Sarah to the other end of the country, which took a major toll on our social life as well as our marriage. God, I wish I hadn't accepted this job in the first place. We were the social sort. She worked at a law firm and I was a welder. Out of the blue, I got an offer to relocate and resettle at another site for 3 times my income. After discussing it with Sarah, we decided that I would take the job and she would find whatever work she could around here. Everything was okay for the first few months, but life started to get dull. This place is somewhat small and there isn't really much to do around here. The lack of novelty took a toll on our marriage. I began to dread coming home from work and would take extra shifts just to delay going back to the house as much as possible. A few months ago, we talked and she decided to join some artsy club that one of her friends from work goes to. I was happy that this would finally get her out of the house. How I wish things were like before. How I wish we never came here. So, she joined this club. At first, she genuinely looked happy, but then she started becoming more dismissive and secretive about what they were actually doing. One time I asked, "Hey, what do you actually do?" She just gave me this angry, bitter look before suddenly changing her mood and saying, "I will sign you up and you will see." From that point, she went back to her happy, warm self. At least, so I thought. She would call me at work and ask about my day, which she hadn't done in years. I would come home to large, well-made dinners. I would think about a gift for my birthday, and she would get me the exact thing I had imagined, without me ever telling her. Suddenly, my life turned from hell to heaven for seemingly no reason. I took a major cut to my pay so that I could spend more time with her. I swear, each day I came home, she was more and more beautiful. One day her hair would suddenly grow and turn lush and strong. The next, I could swear she was thinner and more muscular. She spent a lot of time in her study, making strange figurines for her art club. They looked dark, with strange runes carved into them. I don't know what material she used to make them, but my head started to feel strange whenever I spent time in the house. Sometimes I would hear faint whispers. Sometimes they would somehow move from one spot to another, even though I was alone. My world became perfect, until it came crashing down a week ago. I grabbed her hand and asked what had happened. I kept telling her how happy I was. She just smiled and said, "Maybe it's time you met my friend Philia." The name felt somehow off, so we scheduled the dinner for Friday night at midnight, which, for whatever reason, didn't strike me as odd at the time. Friday came and Sarah wouldn't let me anywhere near the kitchen. She forced me to go into town for the entire day. I came home just before midnight and Sarah opened the door for me. My jaw dropped. She looked at least 20 years younger. It looked like her aging had somehow reversed. Something made me shiver with unease. "Come in, she's almost here," she nearly screamed with excitement. One small detail struck me among all this abnormality. Sarah had a missing tooth that was suddenly there again. Someone gently tapped on the front door. There was no car outside, and we lived far away from any public transportation. The moment she opened that door, I felt sick. That gut-wrenching feeling when everything appears normal, but you know deep down something is very, very wrong. The woman looked beautiful, unnaturally beautiful. "Hello, Sarah," she said while gazing at me. Now, I know her eyes were light blue when she came in. "Can I come in?" she asked in a charming feminine voice. We sat down at the dinner table. My knees shook. She wore a strange, ornate red dress with black jewelry. She barely paid attention to Sarah, focusing instead on me. Sarah placed the food in front of us. It was an exquisite dish made from some kind of meat and rare mushrooms. Sarah never cooked red meat, and this was far beyond her abilities. The strong, sweet, earthy aroma hit me immediately. Sarah and Thilia stared at the meat with almost ravenous expressions before devouring it. They ate as if they hadn't eaten in days. My hand shook as I placed a piece of meat into my mouth. The texture was incredible, the taste unlike anything I had ever experienced. "How is it, honey?" Sarah asked almost mockingly. "It's lovely," I muttered, and they both laughed. Even though it tasted incredible, I couldn't swallow a single bite. It felt wrong. I chewed and chewed, then discreetly spat it out whenever they weren't looking. They ate like animals. They were like hungry lions, not human beings. Thilia produced a bottle of wine, which Sarah opened and poured. She poured 3 glasses of a dense, almost oily red wine. Now I swear, Thelia's eyes were dark green. Her pupils didn't react to light at all, as if they were decorative. They drank quickly and pressured me to do the same. The wine didn't taste like wine. It was extremely sweet. After that, I phased in and out of consciousness. I remember nothing else from that night, except that Thilia gave me one of her black rings, which I cannot remove no matter what I do. I woke up the next morning in searing pain. My entire body felt like it was filled with burning coals. No matter how much I demanded answers, Sarah wouldn't tell me what had happened. I never fully recovered. I grow weaker each day. I have constant nightmares, and I always see that woman in the corner of my vision. I had bite marks all over my body. They were deep and bloodied, but Sarah brushed them off. Finally, Sarah went out again, and I took all my strength to get a taxi to a private hospital in another town. The strangest thing is that the doctors found no traces of drugs, alcohol, or any major injuries. I tried to show them the bite marks, but they couldn't see them. My blood test showed that I am as healthy as a 90-year-old man, and I seem to be aging rapidly. This damn ring won't come off. 3 blades broke when they tried to cut it. The doctors think I am schizophrenic. I swear some of the nurses are her. I recognize those eyes, even behind the masks. One of them smiled at me today. Her eyes were not the same color as yesterday. And I know the ring was on my other hand when I fell asleep last time. Sarah hasn't called me at all. Maybe she will get another chance to undo her wasted life, as she called it. Because when the hospital called her, she denied ever being married to me. Imagine walking into an old man's apartment to make a quick sale. He's sweet, he's senile, and he offers you tea. But then he shows you a photo of his wife, and she looks exactly like you. You think he's just a creepy old man, right? But by the end of this story, you're going to realize that the person you really need to be scared of is the one telling it. Alright, moving on to our final story of the video. If you thought the last one with the creepy dinner guest was twisted, wait until you hear this. This one takes a turn that I literally did not see coming. Let's dive in. I'm a door-to-door saleswoman. I will not bore you with the details about what I sell, because frankly, it doesn't matter. I will say that I'm working for a charity, mostly because it makes me feel better about myself, but also because people who answer their door for a noble cause are usually much lonelier. When I started this job, the only other girl on the team told me, "You will meet people who will want to scare you." It was the smartest warning I've ever gotten. I try to keep that in mind whenever I become painfully aware of double-locked doors and very thick walls. I met Mr. Rogers when I was checking out a new estate. He was very short, wearing a St. Mary necklace, to which he unknowingly clung when he saw me, as if I were there to haunt him. "Oh, hello, yes, please come in," he said, before I could even ask. I went inside. Mr. Rogers' apartment had all the characteristics of an old person's apartment, except for the smell. It certainly wasn't dusty and old, but it also wasn't particularly good, just very artificial. I figured Mr. Rogers had serious gastro problems and thought a strong air freshener did the trick. We chatted for a bit. He offered me tea. We sat down, and as I was listing the reasons to donate, he fixed his gaze on my face and said, "You look like my wife." I glanced at a black and white wedding photo on the cupboard. I had to admit I was a bit similar to her. I turned back to him and almost jumped. He had leaned so close to me that I could watch his wrinkles from up close. I was scared if I looked into his eyes I'd see a predator, but I only saw an inspector, as if he was checking if my nose was exactly as straight as hers. "I'll show you the photos," he said. She was very pretty. He got up and went straight to the bookshelf. "Here," he said, handing me the album. "You can browse and I'll look for my wallet in the meantime." There weren't really any recent photos, but even in those blurry pictures I very easily recognized myself. I was holding the album so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Her nose really was as straight as mine. "Can't find my wallet, I'm afraid," he sighed. "Must be in the bedroom." He came up to the bedroom door. He tried the handle a couple of times, but it was locked. "She must have locked it again," he said. "I'm sorry, who?" I asked. "She always does this," he shouted. "She locked the key in too. Fucking always happens." He grabbed his phone. "My son has a spare key. Let's try him." His son did pick up and said he'd be right there. 10 minutes later, there was a loud knock. I opened the door, startled by a tall young man. "Are you a nurse?" he asked, frowning. "Because someone has to help him. Us neighbours have been doing our best." "Oh, come on now, Kevin. You're not just a neighbour. You're like a son to me," Mr. Rogers shouted from behind. Kevin sighed. "I don't know how he does it, but this is the third time this week I'm here because of the door." He took a spare key out of his bag and unlocked the bedroom. I held my breath as he pushed the door open. The room looked painfully ordinary, and most importantly, the room was empty. "Thank you, son," the old man said, going inside and picking up his wallet. As Kevin was leaving, I stopped him. "Can we talk?" I asked. He looked at me, puzzled. "Oh, I knew I'd seen you before. You look like the woman in the photos. Are you her granddaughter or something?" "No, I am not his wife's granddaughter," I said, annoyed. Kevin lowered his voice. "That's not his wife. It's not him either. Look how tall the groom is. People shrink, but not like that." I looked at the photo on the cupboard. The woman was over a head shorter than the man. "Who are they then?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know. Don't ask about the man. He gets mad when I do. He only ever talks about her." When Mr. Rogers finally found his bank account number, I was already on my way out, apologizing and promising I'd come back later. I left the building as fast as I could, clutching the photo I had stolen from his album in my pocket. I feel like I need to stress here that I don't normally steal from old people's photo albums, but I also don't normally see photos of people looking exactly like me. The internet wasn't very helpful at first, but I kept digging. I finally found something. It was a scanned article from 50 years ago about an unsolved case. A few hours later, I decided to go and see Mr. Rogers again. It was the middle of the night. When I got there, I had to sit for a moment in the parking lot to calm down. I had to be very careful and quiet, and those aren't my strong suits. I can seem a little impulsive, I know, but you have to understand that I never do this on my first visit. After I get invited inside, which is a must-do, of course, I always like to snoop a little before committing to it. Look at their belongings, see if they live alone, see if they have anyone that will actually mourn them when I'm done. Usually they do, so I leave them alone, but Mr. Rogers was practically asking for it. He was sleeping when I got inside. He looked very peaceful and innocent, and I almost got fooled by it again. But I'm not of a faint heart, and I had learned to trust my instincts, so I didn't hesitate for long. I stayed in the apartment for a while after. There was still something that was bothering me, and I wanted to at least try and find it. I did after a while. I found where the smell was coming from. There was a small box tucked under the bed, filled with dozens of various air fresheners. Inside it, tucked in like a treasured emblem, was her finger, all wrinkled and dried up. I couldn't smell it at all. The air freshener's odour was so strong it made my head spin. I lay down and closed my eyes, trying to get rid of the nausea. I imagined what she must have felt, with her only part left whole being this one bony finger. No wonder she closed the door so often. I would protect my parts like that too.